Let's jump in to John chapter 2. From water to wine. 3 days later, there was a wedding in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Jesus and his disciples were guests also. When they started running low on wine at the wedding banquet, Jesus' mother told him, "They're just about out of wine." Jesus said, "Is that any of our business, mother? Yours or mine? This isn't my time. Don't push me." She went ahead anyway, telling the servants, "Whatever he tells you, do it." 6 stone water pots were there, used by the Jews for ritual washings. Each held 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus ordered the servants, "Fill the pots with water." And they filled them to the brim. "Now fill your pitchers and take them to the host," Jesus said, and they did. And when the host tasted the water that had become wine, he didn't know what had just happened, but the servants, of course, knew. And he called out to the bridegroom, "Everybody I know begins with their finest wines, and after the guests have had their fill, brings in the cheap stuff. But you've saved the best till now." This act in Cana of Galilee was the first sign Jesus gave, the first glimpse of his glory, and his disciples believed in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum along with his mother, brothers, and disciples, and stayed there several days. When the Passover feast celebrated each spring by the Jews was about to take place, Jesus traveled up to Jerusalem, and he found the temple teeming with people selling cattle and sheep and doves. The loan sharks were also there in full strength. Jesus put together a whip out of strips of leather and chased them out of the temple, stampeding the sheep and cattle, upending the tables of the loan sharks, spilling coins left and right. He told the dove merchants, "Get your things out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a shopping mall." And that's when his disciples remembered the scripture, "Zeal for your house consumes me." But the Jews were upset. They asked, "What credentials can you present to justify this?" Jesus answered, "Tear down this temple, and in 3 days I'll put it back together." They were indignant. "It took 46 years to build this temple, and you're going to rebuild it in 3 days?" But Jesus was talking about his body as the temple. And later, after he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered he had said this. They then put 2 and 2 together and believed both what was written in Scripture and what Jesus had said. During the time he was in Jerusalem, those days of the Passover feast, many people noticed the signs he was displaying and, seeing they pointed straight to God, entrusted their lives to him. But Jesus didn't entrust his life to them. He knew them inside and out, knew how untrustworthy they were. He didn't need any help in seeing right through them. All right, so ask yourself the first question: what does this passage tell me about God? And then write down your answer in either a journal or a note app on your phone. I think for me, John 2 tells me that we might never be able to understand why God does what he does when he does it. After all, Jesus originally told his mother that he wasn't going to do anything about the party being out of wine because this wasn't his time. And then the disciples did not understand Jesus' answer about authority. He had to ransack the temple. They didn't understand why he responded in the way that he did until after he rose from death, 3 years later. Both his resurrection and a party full of really tasty wine, that's a good thing. So even though we might not understand why God does what he does when he does it, that doesn't mean that what God does is ever bad. Okay, next question. What does this passage tell me about how people are? And I think there are 2 quick things here from my perspective. First, humanity is dependent. We depend on other people, just as the people depended on Jesus for a good time. That might be really weird to think about, but it doesn't change the reality of our human nature, that we are dependent beings. The second thing I would say is that humanity is also deceiving. They took the temple and they used it as a marketplace when it was supposed to be used for worship. But then they kind of got away with it in a couple different ways through deception. And then John even says that Jesus himself would discern his trust in them because he could see the intentions of their heart. So in light of knowing that humanity is both dependent and also deceiving, and also knowing that we may never know why God does what he does when he does it, what do I need to do? What do you need to do? If your answers are different than mine, what do you need to do today? I think I need to develop a way to remind myself that I am dependent on God always. He's got me this far in life, and so far, this far is good. So why would he lead me anywhere that is not good? Especially when what I may conceive as good might not be his same conception of what is good. So those are my thoughts and my answers from our reading of 2 John today, John chapter 2. And I'm really excited to hear yours. Drop them in the comments or make sure to write them down for our time to share at our student gathering on Sunday nights. We'll see you then.